Tip big bass and big bucks on the line. The BASS Megabucks 97. The pros go for the gold, $475,000. That's big bucks worthy of trophy-size record-class bass.
Reach in there and slowly pull out your new, maybe the new record, folks. Slow, hold him up sideways. Oh, go! That, folks, is what it's all about. Set your Kodaks on F8.
Today, the Bassmaster Tournament Trail heads to Corsicana, Texas, and Richland Chambers Reservoir. 45,000 acres stocked with fast-growing Florida bass. Rightfully so, Texans brag about this 10-year-old trophy fishery. And this time, the big ones should bite, as Bassmaster reporter Tim Miller explains.
Bob, last year the Bassmaster Tournament Trail stopped here for the 1996 Megabucks, but as luck would have it, weather turned against us and record low temperatures had these Richland Chambers bass in a lip lock. But this year things are going to be different. The weather's on our side, the lake is a foot high, and even though it has been dropping, fishing this year is expected to be a lot better. One angler who's won a lot of money here in the last year in local and regional tournaments is Sam Rayburn, Texas pro David Wharton.
This lake has had a pretty quick rise on it, about 6 feet higher than what it was when we fished here last year. And what has happened, you know, the water's come up in the growth that's around the shoreline, a lot of weeds and little bushes and stuff that are covered up now. And usually when that happens, bass move up in that new water real fast. Richland Chambers is a good spinnerbait lake to start with, and then once you get a lake that's coming up, you got a lot of shallow cover like that. And this, of course, we're right in the pre-spawn time too, so everything is leading you up to the shallow water to catch the fish.
My lure choice depends on the kind of cover I'm trying to fish. Right now with a lot of broom sage and all this up shallow, you can't throw moving lures through it too good, so a lot of times you have to flip in there. You just have to get it up where the fish are. That's the main key, is getting the bait where the fish are.
Right now I think the fish are still pre-spawn. They're still mainly feeding, and I've been concentrating my efforts on places like this, secondary points leading into the backs of the coves, where I think the fish can find food, can find access to deep water. I've been fishing most of the deeper banks, place where a fish can just step up on a shelf in good cover, stump or log or lay down, or bushes or whatever, and sit there warming himself up in the warming water. My word. I'm going to you. Good. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Lord.
That'll work.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you.
The moon is full, the weather's right, the water temperature's in the mid to upper 50s, and the bass are moving in. And Bob, I've heard more reports this week of 10 and 11-pound bass being caught in practice. If those reports hold true during the tournament, we're going to see Richland Chambers give up a lot of big fish this week.
Well, let's hope that's the case, Tim. The all-time Bassmaster Tournament Trail big bass mark of 12 pounds, 13 ounces has stood since 1973. With the right conditions, Bob Tyndall's record could be beat. Stay tuned. I'm Bob Cobb. The Bassmasters will be right back with tips and tactics on how to catch springtime luckers.
Megabucks 97, a 6-day grind. The toughest test on the Bass Angler Sportsman Society's $4 million tournament trail. For the next 4 days, 160 pros paired with amateur partners will battle the odds. The top 10 Pro Division finishers will advance to the Megabucks Finals, a 2-day fish-off this weekend in Dallas. The big purse there is $70,000. After 3 rounds here at Corsicana, the field is cut to 35 top-ranked pros and amateurs. A challenge, but winning the qualifying isn't the objective. Just making the top 10 is the high water mark. So right now, the goal is to figure out the bass catching pattern on Richland Chambers. This lake, located just east of Corsicana, is being managed as a trophy bass fishery. and the results are evident. A 5-bass daily tournament limit over 20 pounds is no big deal. Hooking a 10-pound largemouth is expected. At yesterday's Day 1 weigh-in, a score of 20 pounds, 13 ounces just barely makes the Jersey's activewear leaderboard. Megabucks veteran David Wharton posted a whopping 26 pounds, 12 ounces. Bobby Urbanowski of Texas ranks second with 23 pounds, 4 ounces. David Wharton qualified for last year's Megabucks finals in Dallas, and here's his game plan to repeat.
The water temperature was in the lower 50s, and, you know, when it's like that, you want to find the cleanest water that you can find, or the clearest water. This is where I normally fish, is up one of these arms here. But when I went up there and practiced, the water was just too muddy. So I came back down and just started running these pockets all down through here, and this is where the clearer water is. And this particular creek right here is the one that I've caught most of my fish in. This is a 3/8 ounce ghost minnow. And what I did, this is a size bigger blade on it than what normally comes on this. This is a number 5 willow leaf. And the reason I did that, I wanted a lighter head with a bigger blade so I could hold the bait up. I was fishing in about 2 to 4 feet of water, and I wanted to run that bait real slow. So if I got a heavier bait, I was having to run it too fast to keep it out of the grass. So I went to a lighter head, put a bigger blade on it, and I also put a big trailer on it to get it a little bit more bulk. There's some really quality fish in this lake, and a bigger bait seems to get the bigger fish.
In the spring, with crawfish getting active, Bobby Urbanowski adds a red tip to his spinnerbait trailer. Irby's changing up between this 3/8 ounce Bulldog spinnerbait and a buzzbait. With the shallows warming, some topwater action is starting.
When you see them popping at the top just like they were doing this morning, you know, they were showing their faces, and you know, 60 degrees is not bad for top water, I don't think. It's just 3 degrees from that, you know. There's one. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Get him, big boy. Get him, big boy. Get him, big boy. All right, thank you. Thank you, Bob Cobb. I tell you, that guy brings you luck.
The hottest pro this season on the Bassmaster Tournament Trail is South Carolina's Davy Height, the front runner in the Bass Angler of the Year race, and a good bet to keep a camera on in this Megabucks tournament.
Both hands, grab. Good job. Thank you. Thank you. I spend a lot of time in one place going back and forth because there's more and more fish moving in. The fish are on their way up into that straw grass up there to spawn, and I'm catching some as they hold before they go in there, and every once in a while make a pass through the grass up there and catch a fish or two. But they're just migrating in to spawn. Obviously, a lot of fish spawn in here, and it's just hopefully more and more will come in here each day.
This is the shallow water spawning area where Davy Height's been catching some of these incredible fish the last 2 days. Davy's actually working on 2 patterns. That's the shallow side. This is the deep side where the fish are migrating from. The Chambers arm of the lake out there. Fish using key migration routes to get from out there in here as they fan out to spawn. But along the way, they're stopping at key wood structures like that cedar tree.
Help me.
It's the age-old question in bass fishing. How do you take 45,000 acres of water and narrow it down to the one spot where the fish are biting? Here's how Davy Height did it.
It's an obvious spawning place because this is an island. There's deep water basically all the way around it.
There's a road bed that comes in on that point there. I think maybe they use as a route to move in here. When I was here pre-fishing, I caught a few on the road bed itself out there. And this is the only little pocket anywhere close. A lot of fish live out in those trees, you know, through most of the year. They're moving up in here to spawn. It's just one of the few places on this island. There's only about 3 cuts on the whole island.
Well, Davey, there are not many bass here under the 14-inch tournament limit. Richland Chambers Lake is loaded with heavyweights. Marc Menendez hopes this bass breaks the all-time BASS record. We'll find out in a moment.
Harry, let's weigh the fish, then take some more pictures. Let's go, Harry. Let's weigh the fish. The fish is going to go over 9 pounds. Well, I mean,
want to bet $1?
Let's make a bet. I bet it weighs 13 pounds and 9 ounces.
That'll be fine, Ray, because Dewey just informed me that 12-13 was the all-time BASS record. So I'll pay you $1 either way it goes.
All right, here we go. Let's don't bet.
Okay.
It's almost sacrilegious. Watch him, folks. Watch him closely. I'm letting the scale down. It's already 12, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 13 pounds, 8 ounces! Hold it, 13.9. Mark it, 13.9. Put it on, folks. All-time records being set right here. Get the hold of it. Woo!
Marc Menendez of Paducah, Kentucky, the new all-time BASS tournament trail record holder. 13 pounds, 9 ounces. He beats the old Marc by 12 ounces. Bob Tyndall's 12-pound, 13-ounce bass caught on the St. Johns River in Florida and held the coveted record for over 24 years.
Woo! Thank you, Lord.
First thing I said.
Did you?
First thing I said.
First thing you said, thank you, Lord.
And the second thing I said, I just screamed. Laid on the front deck and just screamed.
How would do? Tell me exactly the lure you were using, and what size was it, what color was it?
It was a 1/2 ounce Oldham spinnerbait with a colored skirt that's kind of unique. It's called an Elroy. I added a little red flare to it, and it had a 4-inch white ribbon tail from Harville Lures in Tennessee.
That'll sell it all. That's it. That's what it pays. Congratulations again.
Thank you, Ray.
Hey, Ray.
Marc Menendez's record bass won't end up as any dusty walnut. It's headed to the Texas Freshwater Fisheries Center at Athens as a donation to the state's Operation Sharelunker program. Bass over 13 pounds caught in Texas are loaned to the Texas Parks and Wildlife. Hopefully, Marc's bass can be spawned as part of the program's efforts to produce larger-sized bass. For sure, Marc Menendez's big bass grabs the Day 2 weigh-in honors. But it's Davey Height's 23-pound, 3-ounce Staley Creel that takes over the tournament lead. Davey jumps from 6th place with a 2-day total of 44 pounds. David Wharton slips to 2nd, trailing by only 13 ounces on the Jersey's activewear leaderboard. Marc Menendez makes the big move from 20th to 3rd place, followed by Randy Fight of Texas and Doug Garrett of Arkansas. Others in the top 10 include Bo Dowden, Jim Bitter, Tim Poe, Carol Haygood, and Stanley Mitchell. But there are 2 qualifying rounds left and no guarantees, particularly when it comes to Texas weather forecasts. Overnight, air temperature dips 30 degrees, northerly wind gusts hit 30 miles an hour, and 2-foot rollers muddy Davey Height's small pocket.
But what a difference a day makes. Day 3 of the 97 Bass Megabucks turns cold and windy. And in this spot where our tournament leader, Davey Height, has caught 44 pounds of bass the last 2 days, he's now gone 4.5 hours without as much as a bite. But down the lake in a more sheltered pocket, David Wharton is catching bass.
Well, Tim, it hasn't been any picnic for David Wharton either. That's his first bite of the day. He was catching his bass up in that shallow water grass, but he's had to move offshore and make an adjustment.
Well, that one was on a little bush, right off the edge of the grass. All these fish have been up in that grass. But this cold front coming through, they may move back on a little wood cover.
Okay, Bassmasters, let's review the situation. You're faced with post-cold front conditions. It's mid-March, and overnight the water temperatures drop 4 degrees. How do you adjust to catch bass?
These fish have been up in the grass along the shoreline, and then the front has come through, and a very typical thing that you need to do and look for, if you'll notice, there's a few little scattered bushes out in the middle of the cove. A lot of times those fish will move out on wood cover after a cold front, and that appears like what's happened today. There he is.
Sounds predictable that bass will move out deeper with a cold front, but Doug Garrett's learned they may just hunker down in the grass.
But I've caught 3, and all 3 of them have come just as far back in this stuff as I can get a bait. So all I'm doing is I'm just pinpointing these little bitty holes in this grass and just trying to drop a lure in there and shake it a little bit and hopefully drop it in front of one.
Predictably unpredictable. That's what makes bass fishing such a challenge, even for the pros. With the flip-flop in the weather, there are changes in the top 10 standings. After day 3, David Wharton's back in the lead with 57 pounds, 12 ounces. Davey Height drops to second, followed by Doug Garrett. Stephen Browning of Arkansas and Ken Cook of Oklahoma move way up the leaderboard, now 4th and 5th, respectively. Rounding out the top 10, Marc Menendez in 6th place, followed by David Malden, Johnny Lassane, Elton Luce Jr., and Tim Poe. Coming up, the final qualifying round of Megabucks 97. Who makes the top 10 finals in Big D?
That might be the pound and 4 ounces I need right there.
And Davey Height starts off early. Davey has a bass on already. It's still early, only about 30 minutes into the fishing day. Davey's moved outside to this little tree outside from the grass line that he's been fishing. Yes, that's a good 3-pound start for Davey Height this last day.
Tournament leader David Wharton has the odds in his favor.
I don't expect to have to catch a whole lot. You know, I had a pretty good cushion coming out here. And I've got one in there about 3 pounds now, which means it'll have to go up over 17 for me not to make it.
But Ken Cook in 5th place feels pressure to catch fish today.
Yes! What?
Doug Garrett's trying to hold on to 3rd place, but right now he can't get the bass to hold on to his lure. Stephen Browning has climbed steadily up the leaderboard into 4th place. He's figured out a solid pre-spawn pattern.
This is a big flat area off the main lake, and it's just a textbook pattern. The fish have came in here to spawn, and what has happened here this week, the water level has dropped probably about 1 foot to 18 inches, and these fish have pulled back out on the outside grass line. And what I've been doing this morning to catch my fish is just taking a lizard and just fishing the outside edge of this grass. Just the big females coming in to getting ready to spawn. They got a full moon coming up here in about 3 or 4 days, and I think the big fish know that it's ready. They're ready to spawn. The water temperature it's 56, 57 degrees, so it's not just, it needs to come up probably another 4 or 5 degrees before they really get active. So what I'm doing is just trying to catch these fish on the outside edge, waiting to move up.
With warming water temperature, more bass are moving into Davey Height's spawning cove. And this bass, no doubt, puts him in the final 10 at White Rock. But Ken Cook's not in yet. He needs a big bite. Well, Ken, maybe this is your lucky day. In a moment, we'll know the top 10 Megabucks 97 qualifiers.
Get out of the bushes.
But right now, it's time for the Pros Pointer, the how-to section of the Bassmasters. Brought to you by Wrangler Rugged Wear, geared for the outdoors.
By the way, this is the neatest little thing that's come along in a long time. It's called a lip gripper. That's what it looks like. It's sewed together with that sticky stuff on the bottom. You just pull it back on your thumb, kind of back to the back of your thumbnail. You can cast with them all day. They don't bother a thing. Matter of fact, they keep your thumbs warm in the wintertime. But it's a great little thing. It'll stick right to fish's mouth, and you're not going to lose him. I can almost make that fish stick there without holding the fish. Matter of fact, you can if you go like that. It just hangs right onto the grips. It also protects your thumb right in here when you're lifting big fish. Keeps from getting it all bloody and raw. It's put out by Scientific Fishing Products out of Phoenix, Arizona. And they developed it, they said, especially for me since I lost that fish in the '89 Classic. If I'd have had one of these right then, I'd have probably had a Classic under my belt.
There's really no winner in the qualifying round here at Richland Chambers Lake for Megabucks 97. Making the top 10 is as good as a win. Here are the qualifying scores for the championship's final 2 rounds. Stephen Browning, the #1 seed, with 73 pounds 1 ounce, including a 23-pound 8-ounce bag today. Davey Height qualifies #2 with 72 pounds 7 ounces, followed by David Wharton, Tim Poe, and Doug Garrett. Woo Daves, with a 26-pound 10-ounce comeback creel today, ranks 6th. Kevin Van Dam, the 1996 Angler of the Year, is 7th, with Elton Luce, Marc Menendez, and Mike Oughton, the 10th and final qualifier. The runner-up, 11th-ranked finisher Ken Cook, is 13 ounces shy.
Well, actually, we did crown a champion here today. David L. Harrison of Alabama wins the amateur division with 35 pounds 8 ounces and a $20,000 Ranger OMC-powered bass boat. Next week, you'll meet the Megabucks 97 championship qualifiers and find out their strategy for winning $70,000. A 10-hole fishing course will be set up on White Rock Lake near downtown Dallas, and you'll learn how the pros fish a tough lake. For the Bassmasters, I'm Bob Cobb. See you all next week right here on TNN Outdoors.